Welcome back to another full process drawing video. This one's name is also kind of long. I've been into slightly longer names recently, more descriptive words and whatnot. But this one's title is The Longer We Live, the More Modified We Become. This is based around the thought that as time goes on, the more and more things modify us. Experiences or chemicals or whatever, everything modifies us in one way or another. So it's about growth and change and how we adapt to different situations. So there's a few basic elements that I have planned out for this piece. One is that I want a frame, like a black box around the focal point on the inside of this. The second thing I want is for the focal point to be modifying that frame a bit. Kind of like pulling it in or pinching it or elongating portions of it. And 3, I want it to be comprised of black and gray, as well as a little bit of gold accents here and there. The rest is just how to put all that together on paper. This is another piece where I didn't have a lot of forethought going into it. I kind of knew the basic elements, but I didn't know what I wanted to call it. I didn't know how things were going to play around with each other and the end result, really. After a piece is finished, I like to sit down and look at it and maybe even give it a week or so before I actually name it. Sometimes the name has to come to me after I finish the piece. Sometimes the original thought or process doesn't fit the end result, and you have to name it something a little different. In the month of October in 2025, I have been given the opportunity to pretty much only work on my artwork and a little bit of jewelry as I see fit here and there. My partner Nikki offered to pay for the mortgage and a lot of the bills for the month, giving me the opportunity to stay at home and work my heart out for what I really want to do in life. I wish there was a way for all artists to be able to do that, at least once in their lifetime. So welcome to this special journey in my life where I get to really focus and think about how I want to do things. And if you want to support me in other ways, check out my Patreon. I've been working hard to get things where I want it on there. There's a monthly newsletter, as well as coloring book pages, and even like a stencil. It's to help act as a template for people to be able to draw over top of it and get better practice at it without taking too much risk, really. But in the end, liking and subscribing and even sharing any of my social media on YouTube or anywhere else, that's the best way to support me. There's a link in my bio to my Patreon as well as other social media platforms. But jumping back to my drawing, I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm adding an extra pattern inside some of the lines to give it a little bit different dimension, like it's a peak or kind of like a metal tubing that has a little bit of a shine on the top of it. It's hard to describe exactly, but I wanted to add this as a kind of like a fun little experiment, see where it takes me. I don't want to add it to all of the lines or all of the patterns. I just want to add it here and there, kind of sparsely to make it a little bit more fun. It would also be a ton of work if I wanted to do that, so it'll only be here and there. Pardon my head. I will probably be leaning in quite a bit in this section. I sometimes position the camera in not the best spot, and I end up leaning into it. I talked about it a little earlier. This is a piece where I just started drawing with a rough idea of what I wanted. And I'm trying to change that a little bit. I want to have a more dedicated thought process, as well as like a design or other inspiration to be more mindful when I'm drawing. Instead of it being more brainless, I want it to be a lot more cerebral and more of my attention focused on it. I want there to be more meaningful subject matter and more of myself put into these pieces. And with this extra time and the ability to really focus, I think I can do that, as well as make it so much more for myself even. And right now I have a couple of drawings in mind for a series about the nightmares that I had as a child and night terrors I had, going on into sleep paralysis in my later years and other interesting dream stuff. It's really cathartic and very therapeutic for me to be able to focus on that and get these feelings and emotions out onto paper in the way that I know how to best. So that's something that I'm going to really be focusing on in this time that I have been given to really explore my artistic creativity. I also want to do some really, really large pieces, larger than I've done before, on paper instead of being on wood or anything like that, like I've done in the past. One of these bigger drawings is going to be a nightmare drawing about being seen. And I have a rough idea, a sketch of where I want to go and how I want to proceed making this large piece. Once I get started, I'll be posting about that on social media, so check it out as you see fit. I've talked about a lot of other stuff besides this drawing. So looking back at this, I've added some gray, and now I'm going to start focusing on splitting up this overall shape into a few different shapes. I want it to split a few times and have these kind of bubbly protrusions here and there. At this point, I'm still not 100% sure how I'm going to connect this shape to the frame itself. I'm just kind of getting a rough baseline of how this drawing is going to go before I add the frame. And the frame I'm talking about, it's a border. It'll be a black line that goes around the shape on the inside. It's hard to describe that until you actually see it. And once I put it down on paper, it'll make a lot more sense. The more I draw, the more I realize just how little space these pieces of paper offer for something like this. This is neither a huge piece of paper, nor is it super small. This is a 14-inch by 17-inch piece of Bristol board, and I seem to fill these spaces so quickly, which is why I want to move to large pieces, feet by feet. It'll give me the canvas space that I need to really fill what I want to do and make as many details as I want. A little trick that I've been doing is instead of going bigger with a pen tip, I go smaller, because the smaller the detail, the harder it is to fill a space. So I've been trying to go smaller and smaller with the size of the tip of the pen to really be able to add as many lines as humanly possible to these spaces. Speaking of art supplies, I will put a list of all the different supplies that I use to make this piece in the description. Currently in this piece, I am using a .05 nib size Molotow Blackliner pen. That is a mouthful to say, but that's what I'm using. The paper I'm using is from a company called Strathmore. They make a ton of different products. This is their 500 series, all cotton Bristol board. Bristol board is a little bit thicker. This is about 100 pound to 120 pound, and it's made of all cotton, which I really like. It has a better absorbent rate. It lasts longer. It's acid free. It just does all the things that I want it to do when I'm drawing. And that's not to say that another brand or type of paper wouldn't suit somebody else better. That's just what I like, so use whatever's convenient for yourself. I wanted this central space to be kind of filled in a little bit more with gray, as well as being more bubbly and kind of bulbous here and there. When I first started adding the pattern on the inside of the lines, I wasn't super happy with it. But after I experimented with it a little bit, as well as getting an idea of where to place it instead of just everywhere, putting it in very specific spots, I started to really like it. And looking back on it now, after I've created the piece, I really, really like how it looks. I've added little details like this to my pieces before, but I just haven't done it in a long time, so it's really fun to be able to add that again and get that extra dimension. Like I've said so many times, this style is almost endless. You can put a million lines on a piece of paper and none of them will be the same. And you can modify it in however you want with other patterns on the inside or coloring in some of them, or it's just endless. There's no limit to the possibilities. That's part of the reason why I've fallen in love with this technique, is that you can just play for hours and hours and still be figuring things out years later. I'm going to let the music play for a little bit and just enjoy the nice smooth lines of this portion of the drawing. that time to add the border to this piece. I talked about it earlier, but I really want the border to be grabbed by the inside of this piece. Kind of like a spider web pulling really hard and creating that dimension of pull and kind of a drag out, or like a drawing thin effect. To start that, I'm just going to put a few markers down as a guideline so that I can draw some nice straight lines with my ruler. I'm going to pencil in everything first and then add the detail as I need. I'm not going to fill in the border just yet. I want to pencil it in and get it ready so that I can map out how I want the center of this to be pulling and pushing on the actual border itself. So I'm going to pencil everything in, get it the way I want, and then fill it in with lines. And then finally, after all that, I will fill it in with black. This border starts 1.5 inches from the edge of the paper and then goes for 1/4 inch, so it'll be visible enough without being too overpowering for the rest of the piece. With it penciled in, now I can start making the inside of this do its thing and really start pulling on the edge. I've done a lot of spider web or like mucous membrane type of pattern in the past, so this isn't going to be out of my wheelhouse at all. I just started drawing and I didn't really plan out what I was going to do, and that was kind of a mistake for this first piece, because I really wanted to make it look like it was pulling, and I didn't fully get that feel from this first one. I was a little overconfident for what this was. I pulled it together in the end, but it definitely doesn't look the way that I wanted it to in my head, and I'm okay with that. It's all about learning and experimenting anyway, so this is totally fine. I wanted to have that same pattern accent on this portion of the drawing as well, from the inside of it, so I'm adding that little bit of detail here. Did you know that I have a Patreon account? I've been trying to update it a little bit more and get back into the swing of things of posting regularly and making the benefits a little bit more enticing. There's a monthly newsletter as well as a monthly coloring book page. I'm trying to post more and more on there just to make things a little bit more interesting. There's access to my Discord channel as well. There's a few people on there that we just talk line artwork, show what we're doing. I recently added a Magic the Gathering section to the Discord channel as well. So if you want to support me in other ways and still get some fun stuff out of it, check out my Patreon, log into the Discord, and check out all the cool features on there. The link to my Patreon is in my channel's description. In the end, the best way to support me is liking and subscribing, sharing, commenting, pushing all the buttons, doing all the things. The more interaction that happens, the more it gets pushed into the algorithm, and YouTube likes that, and so do I. At this point in the drawing, I have a better understanding of how I want this center to be pulling on the border. I'm at the point in the drawing where I'm questioning whether I should stop here or keep going and add more detail. I didn't want the drawing to get too messy, too many lines, too many patterns, and I don't think I'm there quite yet. But sometimes it's hard to tell, and I take things a little too far and go overboard. But this one I think I did just right. I wanted to add a couple of really long strands coming from the center to the border, kind of like how a spider will have anchor webbing going to certain spots, and you'll see that really strong pull on those and have that really cool web effect. That's kind of how I want all of these to be. The pattern to the left doesn't quite have that yet, so at some point I think I'll go back and fix that. I've added all of the strands that are attaching to the frame of this piece, so it's time to fill in the actual frame. So first thing I want to do is I want to grab a pen that I've used a lot, and the tip isn't very good. The metal ruler really beats up the tip of the pen, so I like to use an old one to get around beating up a fresh one. I'm going to go around all of my pencil strokes to begin with, and then go back and fill it in afterwards. I'm using a big enough pen tip that I can still have plenty of space for error, just in case I accidentally go outside the border. And even if I do accidentally go outside this line, I can go back over it and kind of fix the edge and make it straight again. One of the golden rules that I found out is only draw where you can see. So right now, me covering up this portion of the drawing and not being able to see where I'm drawing, that's a bad idea, because then you can mess up, you can go somewhere that you're not meaning to. So it's good to be mindful of where the pen is going on the paper. You may be asking yourself, why am I saying this right now? Well, it's because I didn't follow my own rules, and I kind of donked up a little bit right here. I couldn't see where I was drawing, and I accidentally drew over a section that's supposed to be without black lines on it. This is not a drawing ending mistake, but it is kind of a big mistake. So I go back over it with a white paint marker, and that really kind of solves the problem. You can still see it, and as the paper ages, you'll probably be able to see that more just from the discoloration of the paper, but that'll take a few years to get to that point. It's not a perfect fix, but it'll do for what it is. And I'm still not following my rules, and I'm still drawing where I can't see, but I don't think I mess up from here on out. Something like this back in the day would probably cause me to want to restart and just forego this piece altogether, but as I've gotten older, I can think a little straighter as I get frustrated. So it's not a drawing ending situation. And now I get to go over the whole border of this with one of these larger brush tip pens to fill it in as much as possible. It's really hard to get a perfect stroke filling in a space like this, so there's still going to be a little bit of a gap between the outside pen stroke and the inside brush stroke. I usually go over this a few times with a couple different colors of black to get the deepest color possible. I'm finished with the brush, and now I'm going to a chisel tip pen. A chisel tip has a straight edge, but it also comes to a nice point, so I can get both accurate detail as well as a broader stroke. This allows me to get as close to the edge as possible without bleeding over to the other side. This is a different color of black, which sounds kind of funny to say, but there are different shades. There's ones with different tones to them. This one's a very straight, flat black, and I really like it. When layering different blacks together, it can darken the color as well as hide any brush strokes or pen strokes that are showing through. That comes in really handy for a situation like this where I want it to be as dark as possible. I've been on the lookout for years for the darkest, truest black of ink I can find, but I know there's a paint. I haven't found an ink that I could use with these pens or already in these pens. So if you know something I don't know, please let me know so I can find it and use it. I would love to be able to use it. This is one of the more satisfying parts of this border process, is filling it in and making it as dark as possible. It's like cleaning a car really, really well and doing the final detailing, and that last little bit just makes you feel extra good. I always go back over everything and make sure everything looks great, and then final step is to erase all of my pencil lines. I thought this is where I wanted to leave the drawing, but it just didn't feel quite complete, so I'm going to go back in and fill in a couple more things to make it feel just that much more full. To do that, I'm going to go back over most of the outside of this inner portion with this very light gray pen from Sakura Pigma Micron. I always get hung up on names and titles. I'm dyslexic, so trying to find those names, those titles and everything is really tough, and it's a lot easier to say thing or that or this. I stumble over my words and switch things around, so that's just something that's going to happen from time to time. I want to try to make things look a little bit more smooth, draw out these pulls and pushes just a little bit more, and kind of make things feel a little bit more complete. After putting down the last little bit of gray, it still didn't feel right. So I went back in with a little bit of gold and I added it to the inner portions of all of these webbing bits. I thought that might bring a little more attention to these sections, as well as separating them from the rest of the drawing completely. It felt like these got a little lost in the whole drawing itself. Not enough attention, not really separated in any way. Just felt like it was another part of the drawing and not special in any way. And the whole reason I'm doing this drawing is for these little bits right here, just to experiment and see what happens. So getting this just right is crucial for this drawing. I also went back into the middle section here and filled in the whole thing. Once again, it felt like it just needed that little bit of attention, pull towards that center. If you like this content and want to see more, there's plenty more on my YouTube channel, as well as on Patreon. So if you want more exclusive content, head on over to Patreon. I've been trying to post a little bit more on there and make the incentives just a little bit more enticing. There's also access to my Discord channel, where we talk about line artwork and other random things, including Magic the Gathering and any other nerdy thing that we want. The easiest way to support me is just to like and subscribe, or share my content with a friend that might enjoy it. I'll put the links to everything in the description. You can also find everything on the channel's homepage. This was a really enjoyable drawing to do. I haven't made too much like this in the recent past. It's really nice to be able to revisit some of these old patterns and thoughts. Try old things in new ways, try new things in different ways. It's a lot of fun. Thank you so much for watching and supporting my work. It means so much to have so many of you commenting and just showing up each and every time. Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comments, and we'll see you in the next video.